This is Module 1 over integer concepts and Lesson 1, Identify and Interpret Integers. First off, we're going to look at our vocabulary words. We have positive numbers, which are numbers greater than 0, negative numbers, a number that's less than 0, and it has a negative sign on there. Positive numbers do not have to have the plus sign in front of them to mean positive because they just get written. Normally, negative numbers need to make sure they do have this negative sign on it. Opposites. The same distance from 0 but on different sides of 0. So this is like 5 and negative 5. Those are opposites. Integers, the set of all numbers and their opposites, so positive and negative numbers. So right here we have our number line. Anything on the left-hand side, which is this right here, are negative numbers. Anything on the right-hand side are positive numbers. And 0 is neither one of them. 0 just gets to hang out in the middle. It separates them. Okay, we're going to look at this left side first. The result of 3 football plays are shown in the table. So a 4-yard gain is positive 4. Gain is a positive thing, so it's represented by a positive 4. 1-yard loss. Loss is negative. That means we're going backwards. So that's represented with a negative 1, and we have a negative sign in front of that. A 4-yard loss is also negative, so that's represented as negative 4. Let's take a look at the first thing right here. What does 0 represent in this situation? So if I'm playing football and I don't have a gain nor a loss, that means I'm not moving anywhere. So that 0 represents no gain or loss. Make sure you're using nice enough handwriting that you can read your own handwriting later. So take your time if you need to write it out. What do negative numbers represent in this situation? So these are our negative numbers right here. If I look over here, that means I'm losing yards. So yards lost. Negative numbers in this situation means yards lost. And positive numbers. What do positive numbers represent in this situation? Positive numbers represents yards gained. Now we're going to look down at this number line. Complete the number line, then graph each result from the table on the number line. So I'm going to start over here on the positive numbers. So I have 1, then we have 2, 3, 4, 5. And over here, we're going to do the opposite. So negative 1, negative 2. We're going to put negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. Now we're going to take our numbers from up here, and we're going to graph them on here. When we graph numbers on the number line, our dot goes right on the number line, not above the number line. So my first number was positive 4. So I'm going to come over to 4, and I'm going to put a nice dot right here on 4. And if you notice, my dot is right on the number line where the dash where the number is, and the line goes through. We're not going to put it up here. We're putting it right on the line. Our next number is negative 1. So we're going to find negative 1, which is right here. And we're going to put a dot on negative 1. And our last one is negative 4. So I'm going to find negative 4, and I'll put my dot right there. And we are finished with this problem. Let's look on the right-hand side at the next one. So it says, complete the number line, then graph the number negative 2. So first we need to fill in these boxes. So we start with the 0, so that means that negative numbers are over here, positive numbers are over here. I'm going to start with my positives. So I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to do the same thing, but we're going to do negatives. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5. Then graph negative 2. So I'm going to look up here. Here's negative 2. I graph it by just putting a dot where negative 2 is. Let's look at the next question. We're going to graph the opposite of negative 2. So if you look at here, I'm at negative 2. The opposite of negative 2 would put us 2 spots away from 0 because negative 2 is 2 spots away from 0. I'm going to come over here and I get positive 2. Explain how you use the number line to find the opposite. Both are 2 spots away from 0. Because if we look up here, 0's right here, we go 1, 2, that puts us at -2. If I do the opposite in the positive direction, I go 1, 2, it's at 2. So they're 2 spots away from 2. Remember, if we looked up at the top on the left-hand side, so the definition for opposites is the same distance from 0, but on different sides of 0. Let's look at our next one. The integer 3 is 3 units from 0 on the number line. Which integer is 3 units from 0? Is also 3 units from 0 on the number line. So we had 3. It's 3 spots away on the positive side. On the negative side, if we go 3 spots away, we're at -3. How is this integer related to the integer 3? So -3 is the opposite of 3. We have 2 more down here at the bottom. How many units from 0 is 0 on the number line? What is the opposite of 0? 0 is 0 units from 0. So 0 units from 0. What is the opposite of 0? 0 is its own opposite. There's not another one there. Okay, this next one is a little tricky to think about. It's a little wordy and they try to confuse you, but let's make sure we're reading it carefully. What is the opposite of 5? So first let's just look at the number 5. And we're going to do the first step. The opposite of 5 is -5. So I got that. And then the opposite of that puts us back to 5, which is right here. So if you get the opposite of the opposite, you're just at the original number. So this can be written as, we have negative, and then in parentheses we have -5, and we explained that right there. Let's take a look at this next question on the next page. Jessie is the student treasurer for the video game club. She records club expenses as negative numbers because expenses, that means that you're spending money. So it's taking money out of your account. And deposits are positive things. That's putting money into the account. So deposits to the club as positive numbers. She graphed these numbers, or these amounts, on the number line. So right here we have -6, -2, and then +4. Jessie did not label every tick mark on her number line. So if you look here, she has 0, 8, and then -8 done. What is the distance between each tick mark on Jessie's number line? So if we look at this, if it was ones, it would have up to 8 here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can't count by ones. Let's try twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. So that means we have 2 there. Each tick mark is 2. How would she show an expense of 5 on her graph? If it's an expense, I'm taking money out of the count. So that is negative. I take it out. I'm subtracting that amount of money. But if we're counting by twos, this would be 2, 4, 6, but they'll be negatives. And the reason we're on the negative side is because we're taking the money out. On the right-hand side, that would be putting that money in. We need to show -5. But there's not a -5 on the number line. So what we have to do is we'd have to put it halfway between -4 and -6. So -5 goes between -4 and -6. This isn't and signed. It's just a quick way to do it when you're writing notes. If you want to do it, that's fine like that, or you can just write out the word and. Okay, let's look down here. The morning temperature in a large city in Minnesota was recorded each day for 7 days. The temperatures recorded were -2, 4, 0, 2, -4, 7, and -10. Graph the temperatures on the number line at the right. So we have -2. So we have not done a vertical one before. The ones on top, so these lot right here, are positive, and then these ones down here are negative. And now let's start getting those numbers on the number line. So this one is a -2, so that means I'm going to be below 0, 2 spots. And before you start putting dots on a number line, it's always important for you to count the tick marks to make sure what you're counting by. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we are counting by ones. So this is -1, this is -2, so we're going to put the dot right here, and we're going to label what that is. I'm then going to check it off, cross it off, so that way I know I've already done that one. Our next one is +4, so we get to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cross it off. Our next one's 0. I am not going to label that one because it's already labeled for us. Our next one's +2, which is right here. We're going to label it. We're then going to fall down to -4. Label it. Fall down to -7. Label it. Then we fall down all the way to -10. We do not have to label that one because it is already labeled for us. So we did the first thing, we graphed it. Now, which pairs of temperatures are opposites? So I'm going to take a look up here. I have a 4 and a 2 up here. So the opposite of 2 would be -2. So we have 2 and -2. And then we also have 4 and -4. How do you know? The same distance from 0. Let's look at the next question. What temperature would be opposite of -7? So I'm down here at -7. I'm 7 spots away from 0 going to the negative. The opposite would be 7 spots on the positive. So the opposite of -7 is 7. Explain. 7 because it is 7 spots away from 0. Down here we have 2 more questions left. What would a point at 10 represent? So 10 is +10. We're up here. And remember, these are temperatures. So if the temperature is 10, that would represent 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, this is like the tricky one on the bottom of the first page of notes. What is the opposite of the opposite of 10? So if I start with 10, the opposite of that is -10, and then the opposite of that is 10. So anytime you have opposite of opposite, it's going to be your original number you started with. What does it mean for a temperature to be the opposite of another temperature? It means they're the same distance from 0. Okay, remember at any time, since this is a recording, you can pause it, you can go back, you can listen to it again. That's a great thing about the recording. So if you don't get something the first time, just go back and try it again. Okay, we're heading to the next page. Okay, check understanding. So what I want you to do for this one, I'm going to want you to pause the video and try to see what you can do up here by yourself, and whatever you can get done, that's awesome. And then I want you to come back and check your answers. If you get something wrong or if you didn't know how to do something, change it. Remember, you're just learning how to do this. So this time I want you to pause it, and then when you can get done with what you can do, I want you to restart the video. Okay, let's check to see how you did. An investment gains $5. So I'm going to circle that, highlight that, underline it, whatever you want to do to make that point out to you. Gain. That means it's positive because I'm gaining something. So I'm going to put a plus sign by that. The next day, it loses $3. So it loses and taking it away, so that's negative. Represent each of these using integers. So gaining 5, I just get to write 5 there. Losing 3, that would be -3. Now if you want to put a little plus sign next to your 5, representing that you're gaining 5, that you can, or you can just write a normal 5. Each of those are correct. Let's look here. Emmett is playing a game. On one turn, she earns 2 points. So I'm going to highlight that and pick it out. Earns means positive. And on the next turn, she loses 5 points. So that's negative. Graph her turns on the number line. So if I earn 2 points, I'm up. Oh, let's first make sure that we're counting by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 2 right here. I'm going to graph it with the 2. And then loses 5. So I get to go all the way over here to -5 and I'm going to mark it. And that's all they wanted you to do on that one. And then this next one, find the opposite of the integer. The opposite of 4 is -4. The opposite of -8 is 8. The opposite of -25 is 25. And the opposite of 121 is -121. This is what do you remember? And this is what you should be doing the next day before our assignment. So I want you to see what you can do to see what you remember before you look to see the answers with this. So I'm going to want you to pause the video, do what you can get done. Once you're done, I want you to start the video again and see how you did. If you get something wrong or maybe you had to leave something blank because you forgot how to do it, fill it in. So let's look at this one right here. Every week, Tiana runs 3 miles and records how long it takes to complete the run. She also records the change in time from the previous week. So we have 3 things here, and I know some of you don't like to read it because it's word problems, but I want you to do it. I want you to read it, and I want you to pick out the key things by underlining it, highlighting it, or circle it, whatever you like to do to help you. So let's read it out loud. Last week, her time spent running decreased by 2 minutes. So I'm going to pick this out right here. Decreased by 2. Decrease is negative. So what integer can represent this change? -2. Because we're decreasing, it is a negative number. This next part says this week her time spent running increased. So I'm going to pick out this right here. Increasing is a positive thing. So we increase by 1 minute. What integer could represent this? +1. Down here, in words, what is the opposite of increased by? The opposite of increased is decreased. What integer represents the opposite? So if I increase by 1 minute, that would be 1. The opposite of 1 would be -1. And our last section right over here. The number line shown includes 5 graphed integers. Fill in the labels for the integers, which graphed integers are opposites. So there's several things they want us to do here. First, we need to figure out our tick marks. So how do I get from 0 to 50 with these? I think we're going to count by tens. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So we're going to fill in the boxes. 10, 20, 30. Over here, remember we have -10. This is -20, -30, and -50 is already underneath of it. Now we need to figure out which ones are opposites that are graphed. So I see -30 and 30, and I see -10 and 10. And our last one. Rona starts at the base of a hill that has an elevation of 25 feet below sea level. So I'm going to bring that out to me. Below would be negative. Then Rona climbs to the top of the hill, which has an elevation of 25 feet above sea level. That's positive. Represent these elevations as integers. How are they related? So 25 feet below would be -25. 25 feet above would be positive 25. How are they related? They're opposites. And that's the end of lesson 1 for module 1.